friends, nice to meet you again. Hope you are healthy, live long, stay happy and successful always. This time I will discuss again famous scientists in the world. Well, it doesn't take long, let's see the story.
Nicolaus Copernicus. Born February 19, 1473, died May 24, 1543, was a Polish astronomer, mathematician and economist, who developed the theory of heliocentrism centered on the Sun, the solar system in a detailed form, so that the theory is useful for science. He was also a canon of the Church, governor and administrator, judge, astrologer, and healer. His theory of the Sun as the center of the solar system, which overturned the traditional geocentric theory that placed the Earth at the center of the universe, is considered one of the most important discoveries of all time, and was the fundamental starting point for modern astronomy and modern science. His theory influenced many other aspects of human life. Nicolaus Copernicus University in Turin, founded in 1945, is named in his honor. To Pope Paul III, Copernicus wrote, among other things, "There are some boasters, who seek to criticize my work, even though they have absolutely no knowledge of mathematics, and shamelessly distort the meaning of some passages from the scriptures to suit their purposes. They dare to criticize and attack my work. I am not the least bit worried about them, in fact I would scorn their criticism as a rash act." Copernicus included those words in his groundbreaking work entitled On the Revolutions of the Heavenly Spheres, published in 1543. Regarding the views expressed in this work, Christoph Clavius, a Jesuit priest in the 16th century, said, "The Copernican theory contains many statements that make no sense or are wrong." The German theologian, Martin Luther, regretted, "That idiot will mess up the whole science of astronomy," which at that time was under the control of a Christian order called the Order Teutonicum, whose real name was Nicolaus Copernicus, or Mikołaj Kopernik, in Polish, which was the vernacular at the time. Only later, when he began writing his academic work, did he use the Latin name, Nicolaus Copernicus. His father, a merchant who traded in Turin, had 4 children, Nicholas the youngest. When Nicholas was 11 years old, his father died. An uncle, named Lucas Waxenrode, took care of Nicholas and his siblings. He helped Nicholas get a good education, encouraging him to become a priest. Nicholas' education began in his hometown, but later continued in nearby Chelmno. There he studied Latin and studied the works of ancient writers. At the age of 18, he moved to Krakow, the then capital of Poland. In this city he attended university and taught and pursued his passion for astronomy. After he finished his education in Krakow, the uncle of Nicholas, who by then had been Bishop of Warmia, asked him to move to Frombork, a city on the Baltic Sea. Waxenrode wanted his nephew to take over on the cathedral staff. However, 23-year-old Nicholas wanted to quench his thirst for knowledge and managed to persuade his uncle to allow him to study church law, medicine, and mathematics at universities in Bologna and Padua, Italy. There, Nicholas joined the astronomer Domenico Maria Nevera and the philosopher Pietro Pomponazzi. Historian Stanislav Brzostkiewicz says that Pomponazzi's teachings freed the young astronomer's mind from the grip of medieval ideology. In his spare time, Copernicus studied the works of ancient astronomers, becoming so absorbed in them that when he learned the Latin works were incomplete, he He studied Greek in order to examine the original manuscripts. By the end of his education, Nicolaus had become a doctor of church law, mathematician, and physician. He was also an expert on Greek, being the first to translate a document from Greek directly into Polish. Upon his return to Poland, his uncle appointed him his secretary, advisor, and personal physician, a prestigious position. Over the following decades, Nicolaus held various administrative positions, both in the religious and civil fields. Although very busy, he continued his research on stars and planets, gathering evidence to support a revolutionary theory that the Earth is not the stationary center of the universe but, in fact, is moving around the Sun. This theory contradicts the teachings of the eminent philosopher, Aristotle, and is inconsistent with the conclusions of the Greek mathematician, Ptolemy. In addition, the Copernican theory refuted the supposed fact that the Sun rises in the east and travels across space to set in the west, while the Earth remains motionless. Copernicus was not the first to conclude that the Earth revolved around the Sun. The Greek astronomer Aristarchus of Samos put forward this theory in the 3rd century BC. The Pythagoreans had taught that the Earth and the Sun moved around a central fire. However, Ptolemy wrote that if the Earth moved, animals and other objects would hang in the air, and the Earth would fall from the sky very quickly. He added, "Just thinking about these things looks ridiculous." Ptolemy supported Aristotle's idea that the Earth did not move at the center of the universe and was surrounded by a series of clear spheres superimposed on each other, and the spheres were embedded in the Sun, planets, and stars. He considered that the movement of these clear balls was what moved the planets and stars. Ptolemy's mathematical formulas explained, with some degree of accuracy, the movement of the planets in the night sky. However, it was the weakness of Ptolemy's theory that prompted Copernicus to seek alternative explanations for the strange movements of the planets. To support his theory, Copernicus reconstructed the apparatus used by ancient astronomers. Although simple by modern standards, this apparatus allowed him to calculate the relative distances between the planets and the Sun. Over the years, he has endeavored to pinpoint the exact dates when his predecessors had made some important observations in the field of astronomy. Armed with this data, Copernicus began work on a controversial document which stated that the Earth and the humans in it were not the center of the universe. Nicolaus Copernicus used the last years of his life to refine and complete the various mathematical arguments and formulas that underpin his theory. More than 95% of the final document contains technical details that support its conclusions. This original handwritten document still exists and is kept at the Jagiellonian University in Krakow, Poland. This document is untitled. Therefore, astronomer Fred Hoyle wrote, "We really don't know how Copernicus wanted to name his book." Even before the work was published, its content had aroused interest. Copernicus has published a brief summary of his ideas in a work called Commentariolus. As a result, reports of his research reached Germany and Rome. As early as 1533, Pope Clement VII heard about Copernicus' theory. And, in 1536, Cardinal Schönberg wrote to Copernicus, urging him to publish a complete record of his ideas. George Joachim Radicus, a professor at the University of Wittenberg in Germany, was so intrigued by Copernicus' work that he visited Copernicus and ended up spending 2 years with him. In 1542, Radicus brought a copy of the manuscript back to Germany and handed it over to a printer named Petrius and a scribe and typographical corrector named Andreas Osiander. Osiander entitled the work De Revolutionibus Orbium Coelestium, on the rotation of the heavenly balls. By including the phrase celestial spheres, Osiander implies that the work was influenced by Aristotle's ideas. Osiander also wrote an anonymous foreword, stating that the hypothesis in the book is not an article about faith and is not necessarily true. Copernicus did not receive a copy of the printed book, which was altered and compromised without his permission, until just hours before his death in 1543. The changes Osiander made initially spared the book from criticism. Italian astronomer and physicist Galileo later wrote, "When it was printed, it was accepted by the Holy Church and has been read and studied by everyone without the slightest suspicion that this idea contradicts church doctrine." Important evidence showing that the idea has strong evidence. There are people who want to discredit the author without even reading the book. The Lutherans were the first to call the book absurd. The Catholic Church, while initially expressing no condemnation, decided that the book was against its official doctrine and in 1616 listed Copernicus' work as forbidden books. The book was only removed from this list in 1828. In his foreword to the English translation of the book, Charles Glenn Wallace explains, "The strife between Catholics and Protestants made the two sects fear any scandal that seemed to undermine respect for the Church of the Bible, and as a result they become too literal in their reading of the Scriptures and tend to condemn any statement which can be considered a denial of any literal interpretation of any verse in the Bible." For example, the account recorded at Joshua 10 verse 13, which tells of the sun being made stationary, is used to emphasize that the sun, not the earth, is normally in motion. Regarding the notion that Copernicus' theory contradicted the teachings of the Bible, Galileo wrote, "Copernicus did not ignore the Bible, but he knew very well that if his doctrine were proven, it would not contradict the Bible if the verses were properly understood." Today, Copernicus is hailed by many as the father of modern astronomy. Indeed, his description of the universe was refined and refined by later scientists, such as Galileo, Kepler, and Newton. However, astrophysicist Owen Gingerich comments, "It was Copernicus who by his work showed us how fragile long-accepted scientific concepts are. Through research, observation, and mathematics, Copernicus overturned entrenched but erroneous scientific and religious concepts. In human thought, it also stops the sun and moves the earth." Copernicus' citizenship from the 19th century was the subject of intense debate. But in fact he can be categorized as either a German or a Polish citizen. In German his name is generally spelled as Copernicus and is a Latin version of the German name Kopernik. In Polish his name is spelled as Nicolaus Copernicus. Copernicus' mother, Barbara Watson-Rode, was a German. The nationality of his father is unknown. His hometown Torun shortly before he was born was ruled by Polish kings, so he can be considered a citizen of Poland.
Well, that's a glimpse of the story. Hopefully it will add to our insight, become a motivation and of course make you smarter. Don't forget to follow the next story. You don't have to be tired of reading, just listen and you become smart. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.